health. A lot more people are spending more time on social media, and the conversation really started to get some drive behind it, which I think people are understanding. It's okay to not be okay. There's still a big issue with men feeling like they can't talk about their mental health because you should just, I hate this phrase, man up. It's not a man thing to talk about your feelings, but emotions have no gender. And if you're struggling, it's important you talk about it. You know, everyone suffers. Everyone has mental health. Everyone has down days. Don't lock it up. It can make it so much worse. If you do, so just talk about it. And actually, it's a strength. It's not a weakness, and we should be promoting it. And anyone that tells you to just man up and you talk about your feelings makes you any less of a man. Idiots. I do apologise as well if this podcast's a little bit all over the place. I'm still finding my feet, my fingers, all sorts, trying to edit correctly. Emily, have you got anything to say? Sorry, I've just caught her out of the blue while she's on the sofa next to me. We're very professional in the Togetherness studio. We've got a sofa, computer, and a microphone whilst cuddled up on the sofa. So,
not cuddled up.
Oh, wow.
We're just having a look through these, and obviously the statistics that Joe's just given out, it is raising more awareness. It has sort of snowballed that conversation of mental health, but it's also highlighting, the underfunding and lack of resources that we have. So many people are struggling, and yet they've got nowhere to turn to. And, also we've got the issue of age as well, vulnerable and lonely adults, who don't have people that can come visit with the tiering restrictions. It is so isolating and so lonely, especially when you have mental health issues anyway, because you do feel, very insular and alone. And to be physically alone as well as mentally alone is hard work, and not having anyone to turn to or speak to is obviously just going to exacerbate the issue. But the statistics we have for the older generation as well are likely to be incorrect, because people of that sort of era aren't likely to talk about mental health issues or even acknowledge that they might have them, because that's not the type of mentality they grew up with.
I'd like to point out as well, one of the big things with the statistics that we're getting from the government as well with COVID, with the marking down deaths as COVID. So there's been evidence as winter flu, the number of reported deaths from winter flu has decreased dramatically, and that's apparently because COVID has been marked as the death. I had a family member that passed away this year, tested negative for COVID, and on the death certificate it was put down as COVID. And there's been a few reports as well that with suicide it's been the same. So I think it's hopefully we'll get the up-to-date statistics, but this has had such a profound effect on people. One great thing that has come out of the pandemic, like I said earlier, it's been that conversation, and we've seen so much kindness and so many people coming together to help each other out. Also for me, I made the decision to move in with Emily. I'd have never done that before. I'd have stuck to my very fast-paced, work-filled life. I felt very alone at home. Emily and me had the conversation of moving in together a lot, and I was too afraid to do it. I would have done it because Emily is the boss. But if anything, that's another good thing. There we go. Emily, you are a good thing out of this pandemic. We now live together. Now I'm not alone.
But I think another huge thing as well is the financial impact, and finances are so changeable anyway, but with the crash in the economy throughout all of this has caused so much anxiety and depression. From the national statistics here, adults were asked if their household could afford an unexpected but necessary expense of £850. This gives them an indication of adults who may be struggling financially. Adults said that their households could not afford this expense, were more likely to be experiencing some form of depression during the pandemic. But £850, I'd say middle class, working class people, we couldn't afford £850 out of nowhere, because the cost of living, even before the pandemic, was so extraordinarily high. Wages don't reflect the cost of living, and to have this additional economic impact is so stressful, and it causes a lot of sleepless nights for many, many people.
Many, and I don't like talking about politics. Throwing Brexit into the mix now, that's going to cause a lot of difficulties, a lot of price hikes. There's so much uncertainty and worry, and there seems to be no stability at the moment. And yes, we've got now 2 vaccines in the UK.
Which we should point out is incredible achievement for the country.
Shout out to our scientists, who I don't think get mentioned enough. I have to say, I think the government get praise for the vaccine, but it's not the government who have done it. This isn't a podcast just slating the government and being really horrible, but shout out to the scientists. 10 years it normally takes to create a vaccine, and they have worked day and night, and within 6 to 9 months, we've now got 2 vaccines which are going to save lives and hopefully bring us out of this pandemic. I mean, Boris Johnson promised it the other day that by Easter we'd be free. I'm not sure if I believe that,
but also as well, we've got to be careful that the news can lead us in certain directions of thinking without having all the information. Like, we were watching the news this morning, and a fact that people aren't commonly aware of, because of the delay of the second dose of the vaccine, people are getting stressed and worried about the effectiveness of it. But actually, they've said that within 12 days of the first vaccine, you are 100% likely to avoid any hospital admissions or any death from COVID, which is a brilliant statistic, really. If you can keep yourself safe for 12 days after having an injection,
it's amazing. And yeah, like you said, news intake. That's one of the bits of advice I constantly give people. Don't listen to the news. Obviously listen to the news, but reduce your news intake. It's stressful. It's very negative at the moment. We've got lots of different things going on all around the world. We've got the US election. We've got Donald Trump. We've got Brexit. We've got the coronavirus. It's all very negative. I struggled to sleep last night because of all these different things going around my head. And like Emily said, we've got to reduce our news intake.
I think, it's not just the reduction of it. It is taking it with a pinch of salt and doing a bit more research, or, challenging certain things before you accept them as gospel, because that's how misinformation spreads very, very quickly.
I totally agree. So that's nearing the end of the podcast. I'd be really interested to hear, obviously we've had the conversation about how mental health is treated. It's just a quick fix, giving medication. Tweet me at Joe Plum UK, or Facebook / Joe Plum UK, Instagram Joe Plum UK. There's a lot of Joe Plum UKs there.
Joe Plumbuck.
Yeah, Joe Plumbuck. Or go to our website, joeplum.org. Let me know. Yeah, I know, right? Let me know your thoughts. It'd be really interesting to kind of get that conversation going. And education-wise, do you think that we should be teaching young children from a very early age about mental health and the different crises that can occur, and Really, we need a change to our education system. But thank you so much for Tammi for joining. Next time we will be talking to Victoria, who is an avid campaigner for mental health, done so much great work. Connected with her on Twitter during the pandemic, and so she will be in our next episode. If you'd like to get involved, be a guest, then just tweet me on the details, contact me through my website, and have a lovely day, night or evening, wherever you are. And join us next time for episode 2 or 3, whatever you want to say, Togetherness. So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Wow, we sound a lot pointless.